Under the fading light of twilight, a young girl named Isabella stood on a busy street corner, her violin cradled gently beneath her chin. Each note she played was filled with raw emotion, weaving a tale of both sorrow and hope that drifted through the city. Isabella's family was struggling, their situation growing more desperate each day. Her father's illness had drained their savings, leaving them on the brink of losing everything. Playing the violin was Isabella's way of helping. The music was a plea for help, a way to reach out to the hearts of strangers passing by. Her fingers moved with grace and urgency, each stroke of the bow a silent prayer. As people hurried past, some stopped, captivated by the haunting beauty of her music. Coins and bills began to fill her violin case, a small but significant step toward easing her family's burden. Isabella's heart ached with worry, but as she played, she felt a glimmer of hope. The music was more than just notes and rhythms, it was a bridge between her family's dire need and the kindness of strangers. Every melody was a testament to her love for her family and her determination to help them, no matter the cost. Isabella's family had once known better days. Their home, once filled with laughter and warmth, now felt heavy with worry. Her father, who had been the family's rock, lay in bed, too weak to work. His illness had drained not only their savings, but also their spirits. Her mother, worn down by stress, worked long hours at a low-paying job, barely making enough to keep food on the table. Isabella, the eldest of 3 siblings, took on the responsibility of helping as much as she could. She saw the worry in her mother's eyes and the sadness in her father's. Each day, she felt the weight of their struggles pressing down on her young shoulders. The bills piled up, and the threat of losing their home loomed ever closer. Determined to make a difference, Isabella took to the streets with her violin. She hoped that her music might bring in enough money to ease some of their burdens. Each time she played, she poured her heart into every note, thinking of her family and the better days they once had. Her music became a beacon of hope, not just for her, but for her entire family. Each evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Isabella took her place on the busy street corner. She lifted her violin and began to play, her music a blend of longing and hope. The melodies flowed from her heart, touching the souls of those who passed by. People stopped to listen, drawn by the beauty and emotion of her playing. Some stood silently, letting the music wash over them, while others whispered words of admiration. Coins and bills started to fill her open violin case, dropped in by those moved by her talent and the sorrow they could hear in every note. Despite their own hurried lives, these strangers found a moment of connection in Isabella's music. Children tugged at their parents' hands, asking to stay a little longer. Older folks smiled, remembering their own stories of love and loss. Each listener left a small part of their heart in that violin case, contributing to the silent promise of hope Isabella's music inspired. The generosity of these strangers was a lifeline for Isabella's family, helping to pay for groceries, medicine, and rent. Every evening, as she counted the money and prepared to go home, she felt a flicker of hope. The kindness of others was keeping her family afloat. One evening, as Isabella played a particularly heartfelt tune, she noticed a man standing at the edge of the crowd. He was well-dressed, with an air of quiet authority, and he seemed different from the usual passers-by. His eyes were fixed on her, filled with a mixture of curiosity and recognition that made her uneasy. The man stayed longer than most, listening intently to every note she played. Isabella could feel his gaze, and it both unsettled and intrigued her. There was something familiar about him, but she couldn't place where she might have seen him before. When her performance ended, the crowd dispersed, leaving the man standing alone. He approached her slowly, his expression thoughtful. "Your music is extraordinary," he said, his voice gentle yet firm. "Where did you learn to play like that?" Isabella hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. "My father taught me," she replied softly. "He was a violinist, too, before he got sick." The man nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. "You have a rare talent," he said. "One that deserves to be recognized." With that, he placed a generous amount of money in her violin case and walked away, leaving Isabella to wonder who he was and why he seemed so captivated by her music. The next evening, Isabella returned to her usual spot on the street corner. As she lifted her violin to play, she couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation. The memory of the mysterious man lingered in her mind, and she found herself glancing around, hoping to see him again, yet dreading it at the same time. Sure enough, as the first notes filled the air, she saw him at the edge of the crowd once more. He stood there, just as before, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her heart race. Each evening, he appeared, listening intently, his presence both a comfort and a mystery. Isabella's curiosity grew with each encounter. Who was this man? Why did he seem so drawn to her music? She tried to focus on her playing, but her thoughts kept drifting back to him. His gaze was not just that of a casual listener. It felt as if he knew something about her, something important. One night, after she had finished playing and the crowd had dispersed, he approached her again. "Your music has a story," he said softly. "A story that I think I know." Isabella's heart pounded in her chest. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man smiled gently. "All in good time," he replied. "For now, just know that your music has reached someone who understands." He placed another generous amount of money in her case and walked away, leaving Isabella with more questions than answers. The air was thick with anticipation, the promise of something unknown but significant hanging between them. One evening, as Isabella was packing up her violin after a long session, the mysterious man approached her once more. This time, he did not just drop money into her case and walk away. Instead, he lingered, a thoughtful expression on his face. "May I have a word with you?" he asked, his voice gentle yet insistent. Isabella nodded, curiosity and a hint of trepidation flickering in her eyes. The man introduced himself as Antonio Rossi, a renowned conductor who had once been a celebrated violinist. Isabella's eyes widened in recognition of his name, her heart skipping a beat. Antonio explained that he had recognized her playing style immediately. It was remarkably similar to that of her father, who had once been his close friend and musical partner. "Your father and I shared a deep bond through our music," Antonio said, his voice filled with emotion. "We dreamed of changing the world with our violins. I lost touch with him years ago, and I didn't know what had become of him. Hearing you play was like hearing an echo of those dreams." Isabella listened, her heart swelling with a mixture of pride and sadness. She told Antonio about her father's illness and how their family had fallen on hard times. Tears welled up in her eyes as she spoke of their struggles, the heavy burden that had fallen on her young shoulders. Antonio's expression softened with compassion. "You have inherited not just your father's talent, but his spirit," he said gently. "I want to help you. You deserve a chance to fulfill the dreams your father and I once shared." Isabella felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Antonio's words were like a lifeline, a promise of something better. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to believe that her music could indeed change her family's fate. The revelation that the mysterious man was Antonio Rossi, her father's old friend, left Isabella in awe. The connection felt almost too miraculous to be true. Antonio's presence brought with it a sense of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. Your father was not only a gifted violinist, but also a dreamer, Antonio began, his voice filled with warmth. We envisioned a world where our music could touch hearts and bring people together. I see that same light in you, Isabella. Isabella's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and sadness. She missed her father dearly and felt the weight of his unfulfilled dreams. Antonio's recognition and praise made her feel closer to her father, as if he were still guiding her through her music. Antonio continued, I want to mentor you, Isabella. You have an extraordinary gift, and it deserves to be nurtured. With proper guidance, you could perform on the grandest stages, just as your father and I once dreamed. Isabella's eyes filled with tears, a blend of gratitude and overwhelming emotion. Thank you, she whispered, her voice shaking. I've been trying to keep our family afloat with my music, but it's been so hard. Antonio reached out and gently squeezed her hand. You're not alone anymore, he said. I'll help you develop your talent, and together, we'll find a way to lift your family out of this struggle. In that moment, Isabella felt a surge of hope. Antonio's offer was a beacon of light in the darkness that had shrouded her family for so long. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but with Antonio's mentorship and her father's spirit guiding her, she felt ready to embrace whatever came next. With her family's encouragement and Antonio's promise of a brighter future, Isabella decided to take a leap of faith. She accepted Antonio's offer to mentor her, feeling a blend of excitement and nervousness. It was a chance to honor her father's legacy and to bring her family out of their dire situation. Antonio wasted no time. He introduced Isabella to a world of music she had only dreamed of. They began their lessons in a small, cozy studio filled with the echoes of countless melodies. Antonio's guidance was patient and kind, pushing her to refine her skills and understand the depth of her talent. Each day, Isabella's playing grew more confident, her music more expressive. Antonio taught her not just technique, but the art of conveying emotion through her violin. Under his mentorship, Isabella began to see her violin not just as an instrument, but as an extension of her soul, capable of telling stories and evoking deep feelings. The transformation was remarkable. Isabella's music, once raw and heartfelt, now shone with polished brilliance. She felt a new sense of purpose and pride. The money she earned from her street performances had always been important, but now her music carried the promise of a different future, a future where her family could find stability and joy once more. One evening, after an especially intense practice session, Antonio looked at Isabella with pride. You are ready, he said, his voice filled with conviction. It's time for the world to hear you play. There's a concert coming up, and I want you to perform. Isabella's heart raced at the thought. The idea of performing in front of a large audience was both thrilling and terrifying. But she knew this was the opportunity she had been waiting for, the chance to change everything for her family. As she nodded, determination in her eyes, Isabella felt the weight of her journey. She had started playing on the streets to save her family, and now, with Antonio's help, she was on the brink of something extraordinary. The path ahead was clear, and for the first time in a long while, it was filled with hope. With the concert date set, Isabella dedicated herself to her practice with even greater determination. Each day was a step closer to her dream, each note a promise of a better future for her family. Antonio guided her through this journey, his expertise and encouragement shaping her into a true virtuoso. In their small studio, the hours flew by as they worked tirelessly. Antonio's mentorship was not just about perfecting her technique, it was about finding the heart and soul in every piece she played. He encouraged her to draw from her experiences, to let her music tell her story of struggle, hope, and love. The transformation was astounding. Isabella's playing, once raw and filled with youthful passion, now carried a depth and maturity that moved all who heard it. She poured her heart into every rehearsal, her music a tapestry of her family's hardships and dreams. Antonio arranged for Isabella to play with a small orchestra, introducing her to the world of professional musicians. The rehearsals with the orchestra were intense and demanding, but Isabella met each challenge with grace and determination. Her confidence grew with every session, bolstered by the support of her fellow musicians. One evening, after a particularly grueling practice, Antonio pulled Isabella aside. "You are ready, Isabella," he said, his voice filled with pride. "You've grown into a remarkable musician. The concert will be your moment to shine." Isabella felt a surge of emotion. She thought of her family, the struggles they had endured, and the sacrifices they had made. This concert was not just a performance, it was a culmination of their collective hopes and dreams. With each passing day, the concert drew nearer. Isabella's anticipation and excitement grew, but so did her nerves. She knew that this performance could change everything for her family. It was a heavy burden, but one she was ready to carry. As the final preparations were made, Isabella took a moment to reflect on her journey. From playing on the streets to save her family to preparing for a grand concert, her path had been filled with challenges and unexpected blessings. With Antonio's guidance and her family's unwavering support, she was ready to take the stage and let her music speak for itself. The night of the concert arrived, and the grand hall buzzed with anticipation. Isabella stood backstage, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nervousness. The weight of this moment pressed on her, but she felt ready. She thought of her family, their struggles, and their hopes, and it gave her the strength she needed. The audience filled the seats, their murmurs creating a low hum that reverberated through the hall. Among them were people from all walks of life, eager to hear the young violinist who had captivated the streets with her music. Antonio stood by Isabella, his presence a comforting anchor. "Remember why you play, Isabella," he said softly. "Let your heart guide you." As the lights dimmed and the orchestra began to play the opening notes, Isabella took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. The spotlight found her, and for a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. She lifted her violin, and with the first stroke of the bow, the music began to flow. The notes soared through the air, filled with emotion and grace. Isabella played with all her heart, each note telling the story of her journey, the struggles, the sacrifices, the dreams. Her music was a bridge between her past and the future she was determined to build for her family. The audience was spellbound. They could feel the depth of her emotion, the raw beauty of her talent. Isabella's performance was not just about technical skill, it was about connecting with every person in the room, making them feel the story behind the music. As the final note lingered in the air, there was a moment of profound silence, a collective breath held in awe. Then, the audience erupted into thunderous applause, rising to their feet in a standing ovation. Isabella stood there, tears streaming down her face, overwhelmed by the outpouring of appreciation and support. Backstage, Antonio greeted her with a proud smile. "You were magnificent," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "You have given them something truly special tonight." Isabella knew that this night was a turning point. The recognition and opportunities that would follow were a testament to her hard work and determination. More importantly, they were a lifeline for her family, a promise of better days to come. Isabella's performance was nothing short of mesmerizing. As she took her final bow, the applause washed over her like a wave, filling her with a profound sense of accomplishment. She had done it. She had taken the stage and poured her heart into every note, and the audience had felt it. After the concert, people crowded around her, offering congratulations and words of praise. Isabella was overwhelmed by their kindness and admiration. She saw Antonio smiling proudly from the sidelines, his eyes shining with joy. This night was as much his triumph as it was hers. As the crowd began to thin, Isabella's family approached her, their faces glowing with pride and relief. Her mother hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You were amazing, Isabella," she whispered. "Your father would be so proud." Isabella felt her own tears welling up. She had dreamed of this moment, of sharing her success with her family and knowing that their struggles were finally easing. The joy on their faces was the greatest reward she could have hoped for. Antonio joined them, his expression warm and full of admiration. "You've touched many hearts tonight, Isabella," he said. "And this is just the beginning. There are so many opportunities ahead of you." With Antonio's guidance, offers began to pour in. Invitations to perform at prestigious venues, scholarship offers from renowned music schools, and even recording contracts. Isabella's world had transformed overnight, filled with possibilities she had only dared to dream of. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of excitement and planning. Isabella worked closely with Antonio to navigate these new opportunities, ensuring that her family's needs were always at the forefront. She continued to practice and perform, her music reaching wider audiences and touching more lives. Through it all, Isabella remained grounded. She knew that her success was not just her own, it was a testament to her family's resilience and the support of people like Antonio. Her journey had been filled with challenges, but it had also been blessed with unexpected kindness and opportunity. As she stood on the threshold of this new chapter in her life, Isabella felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had set out to save her family with her music, and in doing so, she had found her true calling. The triumph of that night had set her on a path filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. The concert had been a turning point, but it was just the beginning of Isabella's journey. With the support of Antonio and the love of her family, she embraced the new opportunities that came her way. Each day was filled with practice, performances, and preparations for a brighter future. Isabella's music, once a plea for help, now resonated with hope and triumph. She played in grand concert halls and small community centers, her violin speaking to people from all walks of life. Her story spread, inspiring others with her resilience and determination. She became a symbol of how dreams could be achieved, no matter the obstacles. Her family's life transformed as well. The financial struggles that had once weighed them down were now easing. Her mother could finally take a break from her exhausting job, and her siblings could focus on their studies without worry. The home that had once been filled with anxiety and hardship now echoed with laughter and hope. Antonio continued to be a guiding presence in Isabella's life. He helped her navigate the complexities of her growing career, always reminding her of the importance of staying true to her roots. Under his mentorship, Isabella flourished, her music touching hearts around the world. One sunny afternoon, as Isabella played her violin in the same street corner where it all began, she saw familiar faces in the crowd. Her family stood there, beaming with pride. Antonio was beside them, his eyes filled with the same warmth and encouragement that had guided her from the start. As she played, Isabella reflected on her journey. She had started with a simple goal: to save her family. Along the way, she had discovered her own strength and talent, found a mentor in Antonio, and inspired countless others. Her music had become a bridge between her past struggles and her future hopes. The final note of her performance hung in the air, a symbol of everything she had achieved and all that was yet to come. The applause was loud and heartfelt, a testament to the connection she had made with her audience. Isabella smiled, her heart full, knowing that this was not the end, but a beautiful new beginning. With her violin in hand and her loved ones by her side, Isabella looked forward to the future. She had proven that even the darkest times could lead to the brightest dawns, and that with passion, determination, and a little help from kind strangers, anything was possible.